Dr. Diane Painter is the chairperson of the Curriculum and Instruction Department at the School of Education and Human Disabilities at Shenandoah University. She's also the heads the Professional Studies Certificate Program for Special Education. For 21 years, she was a special education teacher in Maryland and Virginia, and for 9 years, she served as Technology Resource Specialist in Fairfax County, Virginia. So she's a Virginian, like we are here at SoftChalk. Our corporate headquarters are in Richmond. She earned a doctorate in special education technology at George Mason University, another Virginia school, and a master's degree in special education at the University of Maryland. So she's moved all the way north to the state of Maryland, in the University of Maryland College Park. Her undergraduate degree is from George Mason University in elementary education. And after 30 years of K-12 teaching, she retired in 2005 to become a full-time educator. In 2010, she was awarded a Teaching with Today's Technology grant from the Virginia Foundation for Independent Colleges and the Verizon Foundation. And the purpose of the grant is to enhance teacher education programs to ensure that future K-12 teachers are well-versed in new technologies and can apply technology in their teaching. The focus of her efforts is to train college professors and their pre-service education students to use thinkfinity.org resource to plan and carry out instruction. And that is a lot of what our topic will be today. So she's pairing with Thinkfinity with SoftChalk and building lessons to help them create interactive and engaging lessons for K-12 students. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, before I do that, there's one thing that we want to ask about as I turn it over to Diane. Since you'll be talking about Thinkfinity, we want to get a sense for whether people know about Thinkfinity at all, or this is will be your introduction to it. So let me start to move the presentation over to Diane while we are.
All right, can you see me?
Well, we will be able to see you. I think the quick poll is doing the screen, but in my background, I'm still seeing mine. So there should be a question on your box saying, show my screen. Do you see that? Well, let me close the poll because that may be in the way. So let me close the poll and sort of share the results. And 19% of you actually use it, and 16% have heard about it but not use it, but the majority, the lion's share, 66%, have not even heard of it. So you can have a fun time telling everybody about it. So let me try to, I'm going to take this back and try again to make you the presenter. So you should see a little tag on your screen saying, show my desktop. Diane, do you?
I see GoToMeeting thing popping up, and it says show my screen. There we go.
There you go.
All
Click
right.
yes, and yes, now I can see it. Perfect.
So, all right. So everyone can see a blue screen. It's a SoftChalk lesson that I created, and the title is Using Thinkfinity Resources with SoftChalk, an Introduction. Am I correct?
Yes, yes, we can. Yes, we can.
All right. At Shenandoah University, when we are in the northern part of Shenandoah Valley in Virginia, we are using Thinkfinity resources with SoftChalk to develop lessons for K-12 environments. The people that are learning to use both the Thinkfinity resources and SoftChalk are primarily pre-service teachers. These are teachers, students at Shenandoah who want to teach elementary, middle school, high school, and special education. What we're doing is we're starting with the professors. The content professors, like the biology teachers and instructors and English professors, and those of us that are full-time in teacher education, to first use SoftChalk and introduce them to Thinkfinity resources so they can create lessons within their own higher education classes, and then in turn serve as models to those students that want to be teachers. And my job this fall has been to work with the methods students, those that are getting ready to go out and do their student teaching in the spring, to create lessons. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to first start with the concept of universal design for learning. And there are three principles. The initiatives that Universal Design for Learning will embrace is that you can create or present information in many different ways, and then that in turn to actively engage your students in their learning in a variety of different ways. And then the third principle then would be to allow the students to show you what they know and what they can do. And so that's important in terms of monitoring their progress toward their learning, as well as at the end determine what it is that they know and what they can do. So my presentation is going to be first an overview of Verizon Foundation's Thinkfinity website. And if I'm not mistaken, Steve, I think that you mentioned that Pat Williamson is one of our attendees today, and Pat was my Thinkfinity trainer this summer. So let's begin. What are the benefits of using Thinkfinity when planning lessons? Well, first of all, Thinkfinity, what I have found in working with the professors and the pre-service students, is that it's a wonderful place to start to try to get some ideas when you are first learning to create lessons. It's sort of like a writer who's sitting down in front of a blank page and they're saying, okay, I know I need to write a story, but how do I start? So Thinkfinity is just a terrific place to start. You have quick and easy access to specific lessons that have been posted, as well as a number of learning resources. And all of these lessons and learning resources have been created and provided to Thinkfinity by content partners. And when we visit the Thinkfinity site, I'll show you what I mean. As a member of Thinkfinity, and you can join Thinkfinity, and it's free, online community, then you will have at your disposal all kinds of tools, but also tools and resources that are even specific to your state. You can tie your lessons into activities that you would do in school as well as outside of school, perhaps working on creating lessons and pointing families and children and their parents to specific resources within Thinkfinity after school hours, during the summer, and so forth. And then finally, Thinkfinity also provides staff development training through online and face-to-face training. Pat Williamson did face-to-face training with the faculty members at Shenandoah this summer. One of the nice things about Thinkfinity is that they have aligned their resources and their lessons plans with both state and national standards, and I will show you that in a few minutes. And then when you are trying to find resources and information to support that first principle of presenting information in multiple ways, you can narrow your search within Thinkfinity by resource types, grade levels, subjects, and even through the specific partner groups that have contributed content to Thinkfinity. So what I'm going to do is click on the Thinkfinity link, and then we're going to visit the Thinkfinity site. I point this out to the people that are learning to use Thinkfinity for the first time, that there are these tabs at the very top. In the classroom, you can choose to go directly to where lesson plans are stored, where you might find student interactives. Under the 21st century skills, you're going to find information about critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, and communication ideas using Thinkfinity resources. And today in history, I think, is kind of an interesting part, where it provides a calendar, and then you can see what's going on for the month in history. The tab is for at home and after school. This would be very good for, I would say, daycare centers, after school activity centers, parents, kids. You can find games and tools and just a boatload of information on literacy activities. In professional development, this is where you would go to find out what Thinkfinity is doing in your particular state. You could also engage in webinars, and that, again, I like to emphasize both online, and you can arrange to have an on-site training as well. On the Get Connected, this is where you, as a member, and again emphasizes a free member, you can involve yourself in blogs. You can find widgets from the widget library. I get a monthly newsletter electronically sent to me telling me what's new on Thinkfinity and so forth. And then on the tab where it says About Us, this is where you can find out about your content partners and your state partners and Verizon Foundation, and even contact them. Well, what I'd like to do right now is I would like to talk about how I would use Thinkfinity to find resources for lesson plan ideas. So I'm going to just click on Home and take you back to the home page. And this is what it looks like when you first come to thinkfinity.org. Since we've been talking about veterans this past week, what I'd like to do is I'd like to see what's out there on Veterans Day. So I'm going to click right here in the search box, and I'm going to type in the word Veterans Day, Veterans Day, and I'll just hit the Go button. And when we get to this screen, you will see on the right, these are where I can do some keyword searches, and I can even narrow my searches. What you see here are 2 pages, page 1, page 2, of resources, lesson plans, and so forth that they came up with the search words Veterans Day. And right over here, you're going to see their content partners. The History Explorer is sponsored by the Smithsonian Institution. Read, Write, Think is a wonderful literacy site. And so it looks to me like those are 2 content partners. Here's a third one, Econ EdLink, which we have a professor who teaches in the business school and economics, and he found that to be quite useful this summer when he was in the training with Pat. Down here, you're going to see actually all the content partners that have provided information in Thinkfinity. Expeditions is connected to the National Geographic, and Arts Edge is connected to the Kennedy Center, and so forth. Well, let's say I want to sort of narrow this down a little bit, and I want to actually look at lesson plans. So I can click on lesson plans, and then I can do a search on just lesson plans. And so now I've narrowed it down. What if I want to just do primary sources related to Veterans Day? So I will click on that and do a search. And here's an example, Buffalo Soldier uniform coats. And you can see that from the Smithsonian, we can actually see some real artifacts that we might want to capture and include in a SoftChalk lesson. Videos. There are a number of media resources that are available. So let's take a look and see what we have there. Under the Price of Freedom learning resources, you're going to find, tied to the Smithsonian's American History Museum, PDFs, the self-guide to Price of Freedom, Americans at War. And as I scroll down, you're going to see that there are links to first-person accounts, and that there are lessons tied to those accounts in PDF format that you can download. If you download it in PDF format, that's something that you can tie directly right into a SoftChalk lesson. You can capture any link that you want to embed into a SoftChalk lesson. You don't have to go to Thinkfinity and then do searching around. You can just embed this link in a SoftChalk lesson and take you to whatever resource that you did find in Thinkfinity. So that just gives you just sort of an overview of what you can do with Thinkfinity. Of course, you can narrow it even further down to your grade level, specific subject areas, and even to particular partner sites. So what I wanted to emphasize to you is using Thinkfinity as a starting point. Where can I find a lesson? Where can I find resources and so forth that I might be able to use as I am developing my web-based lesson in SoftChalk? So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go back to my presentation here in SoftChalk and just show you how I actually captured and embedded some of those resources I found in Thinkfinity into SoftChalk. When I was doing some searching for math activities and math games, I found activities that are on the NCTM website, and this is one of them. It's called a 10-frame game. And so I embedded that link into my SoftChalk lesson, and that takes me circles are there? And that takes me right to this activity. And so you can embed that link right into your lesson. The child can click on the link, and it will take them right to that activity. And they can play the game online. Notice over here, they also have some lessons that correlate with this activity. I won't take the time to follow those links, but I wanted to point that out to you. I also found widgets. Many different widgets that are in Thinkfinity that you can also embed. You just capture the code and put those the code in right into SoftChalk. And one of the widgets I found was one on finding lesson plans in Thinkfinity. And so I could click, type in mathematics, for example, right in here, and then I can click, and it'll take me right to the Thinkfinity search area. And there you have some starting point for math lessons that I might be able to use. So those are two examples of what can be embedded right into a SoftChalk lesson that I found on the Thinkfinity website. I'm going to show you one more thing, and that is the third principle of universal design for learning is allowing students to show you what they can know and what they can do in a variety of different ways. And I found Calculation Nation through Thinkfinity, and I was able to capture an image of this game. What I would do if I were going to put a link to this particular game into a SoftChalk lesson, I would first go to the Calculation Nation website. I would create free accounts for my students before I put the link into the SoftChalk lesson. All right, so when I was getting ready to introduce SoftChalk to my students as well as Thinkfinity, I wanted to create a lesson that would be an example for them. And the lesson that I created was 5 a Day, the Healthy Way. I wanted to create a third grade lesson that supports the Virginia Standards of Learning and Health. I also wanted to encourage them to be thinking about different standards too that you can create or use within a particular lesson. So in the 5 a Day lesson I'm going to show you, you're going to see health standards and English standard on effective communication skills, and then some ideas on mathematics and probability and statistics that could be used within that lesson. After I show them the lesson, which I will show you in just a minute, then my students were let loose and they explored Thinkfinity and they came up with some ideas. And 2 of my students have made their lessons available for me to show you today. Both of these students are provisionally licensed special education teachers that are working for their permanent license in special education. They both teach at the elementary level, and they both teach students with intellectual disabilities. And the first lesson is on life processes and living systems and science, and it's how plants grow. What do plants need in order to grow? And then the second lesson is on the 7 continents. both of these lessons, this first one is written for the average first grader. This one is 7 continents for the average third grader. But the students that they're working with are ages 11 and older. So I'm going to get out of my SoftChalk lesson here, and I'm going to return to our Blackboard system at Shenandoah, and I'm going to click on the first lesson, which is my 5-a-day lesson. This is the one that I created as an example for them. And you come in on a table of contents, and I have a lesson planned for the teachers to review. And but if I were going to start with the K-12 students, I wouldn't start with this lesson plan. This is just for the teachers. I would start with the actual activity, and that would be on my second page. So I will go to the second page, and I will start that for you. This is what I would be showing in the classroom as the students get ready to start the lesson. And I want to emphasize to you that I created this lesson with a smart board in mind, where you might have a small group of kids gathered around the smart board, an interactive smart board, where they can get up and touch and manipulate their environment. So as we go along, I will show you what I mean by that. So the first activity that we would be doing would be to learn about fruits, and I found this wonderful little video about fruits, the different kinds of fruits, and it has music, and the children seem to really enjoy that. I also found a picture of fruit with a flower that's attached to it. I don't know how many people have ever seen bananas grow like this, but it was a wonderful conversation piece that we had in my methods class about bananas, fruit, flowers. And the next page, this one will tell you all about vegetables. Again, it's a nice little video that we embedded into this lesson. And I found a nice little picture about with fruits at a marketplace. Without going into a lot of detail, SoftChalk would also allow me to take this picture and create rollovers, where if we rolled our mouse over, I could put carrots that could pop up, the word carrots or cauliflower or whatever. And I think I might do that on my next revision of this lesson. Then we found a nice little video about what do fruit and vegetables need in order to grow, sun and rain and so forth. Okay, now we're going to get to some of the actual activities where kids can pop up out of their seats and take, use their fingers and touch the interactive whiteboard. In this particular activity, I would ask the children, can you read this word? And they might say pepper. And what is pepper? Is a pepper a fruit or is a vegetable? Take your best guess. And then they could, with their finger, just click on the show, and then they see a picture of the vegetable and the word vegetable. And then they we click on the arrow, and what's the next word? What does it say? Bananas. What are bananas? Well, I think it's a fruit. All right, let's see if you're right. So that's one activity that I've embedded into the lesson. This is an absolute hit with students with intellectual disabilities. I absolutely love to do the card deck activity. They'll pop up, they will click on the card deck, turn the card over, and they will, in this case, ask them, well, what is that word? It's broccoli. Well, what is broccoli? Then they would take their finger and they could drag it up and see if they could put it in the correct group. If they don't put it in the correct group, what will happen is it boils down. And I will caution you that kids love to hear the boiling down. And then, of course, you can restart it and do the activity as much as you want. Give every child a chance to sort the deck and put them in the right category. Now, in this, on this page is where I actually tied directly into an activity I found on Syncfinity, and it is a challenge chart. So I'm going to click on that link. And on the interactive whiteboard, this whole chart shows up entirely across the entire screen. It's just really visually a really nice display. What I would do is I would print off a chart actually for every child to take home and ask them then to to record the types of fruits and vegetables that they would eat for a week. Then they could bring in their charts, and then as a class you can try to figure out how many fruits were eaten on Monday by boys, how many were eaten by girls, and so forth. And this is where you can tie a number of things into your mathematics objectives. On the next page, it takes you to another activity I found on Syncfinity, which is like a web quest to learn about fruits and vegetables. And this is a link to the eSheet directions that Science Links contributed. And it is like a web quest. As they go down, they're going to be asked to complete several different steps. One, choose a vegetable, learn about your vegetable. All of these are links to different sites where they can learn more about their vegetable. And then finally, the last thing they're going to be asked to do is to create an advertisement, and then use this advertisement to try to convince their peers that eating vegetables is a good idea and why.
Well, it appears that download isn't going anywhere, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm sorry about this. I was practicing all this morning. I didn't have any problems with this. So I apologize.
Technology and bandwidth have its own mind.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't think so. And then the next page is I embedded some activities. There's a puzzle activity, and then there's some other websites with some nutrition games. What I'm going to do is just close this lesson for right now and launch, because I'm looking at the time, some of my students' lessons. And this one is on what do plants need to grow. Again, using the interactive whiteboard, these pictures were big and bright, and they were wonderful for the kids to look at. And the teacher introduced the lesson. They talked about what is needed. She was eliciting their oral language to discuss those things. She found a little video on Mrs. Obama planting seeds in a garden. This is a link that will take them to a story about plants, and I won't take the time to show you those. I just wanted to show you a couple of the activities that she embedded in this. This is the same video I had in my lesson. She liked it so much that she embedded it in her lesson, and the kids absolutely loved the song. And she said they really learned to sing it. This is a slideshow activity that she put in there that when she gets it started, starts the slideshow right here, it gives her enough time to talk about when you cut a fruit in half and there are seeds inside, and what are the seeds and so forth. So this again is a directed learning lesson, but with some media presentation built into it. What she wanted to tell the children is that in the next few weeks they're going to grow seeds, and these are going to be their conditions. So she introduced that in her SoftChalk lesson. And then she gave them each an observation chart, and she's teaching them how to chart information about their seeds as they grow. Now this was an activity that Steve and I were trying the other day when we were practicing for this, and this is a big hit. And again, she found this through the links in Syncfinity, and it's a little activity. It's really an applet, and so all she had to do was to capture the code and then place it into SoftChalk. And in this particular activity, you want to try to get your plant to grow, but you have to keep in mind that it needs water, and it needs to be the right temperature, and you have to try to do this before, whoops, I wasn't fast enough. Your plant has stopped growing because the conditions were too hot, and have another go. And she said the kids absolutely loved this activity, popping up and trying to make those levers grow. And then she has a jigsaw activity. Good. So those of you who are learning SoftChalk for the first time will see what a jigsaw activity is. Again, the children absolutely love doing this on the interactive whiteboard, just trying to find out where these puzzle pieces go. Great design. Now, what I want to talk to you a little bit about is that third principle, letting the kids tell you what they know and they can do in a variety of different ways. SoftChalk will allow you to embed different kinds of quizzes. And the information can be reported to you, as Steve mentioned, through SCORM reporting, through Score Tracker, email results, and so forth. For these two teachers, what they want to do is have the kids just click on the Quiz Me and then answer their questions by clicking on the correct radial button. And then, because they selected when they put it in this Quiz Me activity that they could print the page, they're going to print the page and put it into the children's portfolio. And that's what they do with the special needs students. They just keep a collection of their work as evidence of their learning. And so that's how they've chosen to do that. The next lesson, and I'll go through this fairly quickly because I think I only have about 3 or 4 more minutes left, is the 7 continents. And she, again, on the big whiteboard, this was wonderful. I mean, most of this page showed up right on the whiteboard. And she wanted to make sure that the letters and words were large enough for them to read. She found this little song about how to learn the different names of the continents, and she embedded that into this SoftChalk lesson. And then she found a link to this site, which would allow the students to label the continents. And I asked the teacher, I said, how do they do? Do they do pretty well? And she said, yeah, they really learn the continents pretty well and can drag and label, but they're having some difficulty with Asia, it was Australia, she said, and Antarctica. And after they finish this activity, you can also print out this page. Another activity that you can embed is an ordering activity. And in this particular page, she was teaching the children the different sizes of the continents and which is the largest, which is the smallest, and then put them in order. And so what she was doing with this particular activity is asking them to drag them and put them in the particular order of, I think it's from the largest to the smallest, I recall. On this particular page, she's just introducing the idea of what features means, the word features means. And then she started to put in some text poppers to define some of these terms. And as you go through the lesson, you're going to see not only is she using words to define terms, but now she's learning how to use, to embed pictures in her text poppers. So she has a variety of words and pictures. As the children would scroll through and read, and they touch with their finger, the pictures will pop up. There you go, the picture. And again, as the first teacher did, her last page of, I forget which one that is. Well, let's see if it's number 11. She has a quiz me. So after they've gone through all those pages, this particular lesson would be more teacher directed than the other. Then they would click on their answers and then they can print them out. We believe that she would use this at a standalone station that would be attached to the printer, so they can put their printed sheet right into their portfolio. So those are 3 lessons that are examples of lessons that have been created by SoftChalk for students with special needs. And the resources used primarily came from Syncfinity. And they do embrace the 3 principles of universal design for learning, multiple ways of presenting information, multiple ways of engaging students in their learning, and then multiple ways of determining what they know and what they can do. So with that, I hope I was within my time.
Well, you're about on the time frame. There are a few questions in the question box, but let me give people a few moments to sort of get their heads around what else they want to ask you about. And I'm going to launch the final quick poll. And sort of, who are you? Are you a teacher educator at the college or university level, a student, a teacher to be, etc. So while you're thinking about responding in the question box and asking Diane some questions, let me let you do that. And also there's a question that is here, and I'll answer it. One of our attendees actually joined late because you had some computer problems. And it says, do you have an assessment tool that you use to evaluate the work that your students do using SoftChalk? And there's a whole variety of assessment tools that you demonstrated, and some of them were in SoftChalk, and some of them you found in other resources through Thinkfinity. Do you want to expand on that?
Well, that's very true, but I'm wondering if the person that asked that question meant, how would I evaluate the actual lesson that my student created? And what we do is that we have a lesson plan rubric, and we also have a unit plan rubric that I would use. And so those elements that I would be looking for would be a tie-in to the standards, a tie-in for special education to the IEPs that special education children have. And then I would be looking at to see if there were evidences of universal design for learning principles. I would be looking at definitely how the student would assess their K-12 students' progress, progress monitoring, formative, summative evaluation. And then also I would be looking at how well they present their lesson plans to their peers in their class. So it would be a rubric that I would create. I would share that rubric with my students ahead of time so they know what I was looking for. And I would also ask my students to do a self-evaluation. Now that you have created this lesson, you field tested it in your classroom, how would you assess? And that's what we did last week, actually, with these two students. We talked about how well it went over in their K-12 situation and what they might do to improve their lesson.
Okay, let me share the results of the poll. So more than half of us are a teacher educator at the college or university level. A few are teachers to be, probably one person. And we see some distribution beyond that. K through 12 instructional technology specialists in either K through 12 higher education. So we, as expected, have a diverse group here. So let me hide that and see if there are other questions about. I got a question from Bruce about, do you see large healthcare organizations utilize SoftChalk? And yes, while that's not quite on the topic here, yes, it's our fastest growing market share actually, and we actually have a relationship with a national health hospital organization that uses SoftChalk as well.
I could add to that from Shenandoah that our health professions group, nursing particularly, and occupational therapy, they are definitely using it.
Excellent, excellent. Anyway, okay, so somebody asked, do your students create the lessons in SoftChalk, and do they need an account? Well, they would need a license. Students would need a license to create content in SoftChalk. However, let me tell you that if you looked at our website, you will notice that we have a special price for students, and teacher education students are probably our biggest purchaser of student licenses. So if you look at our website, you'll see that for $150 a student can produce their college ID, sort of scanning it and faxing it, and we will sell them a copy for $150. Normal educational pricing is, I think, $595. So it's a very substantial discount, and it really does wonders for their ability to be productive. And Diane, you may want to sort of expand on that.
Oh, absolutely. What we do is I introduce the SoftChalk in our labs where we do have a site licenses, so they can sit down and create a very simple SoftChalk lesson. I give them sort of the overview of it, and then I tell them that they can download it for 30 days to see if this is something that they want to purchase. And we have quite a number of students who have purchased their own licenses for SoftChalk. You know, they will either ask for it for Christmas. Steve, you may be getting some orders for Christmas. I do have one student who has, just a little plug for this, he purchased it last year when I introduced it to him, and he's been making lessons on literacy and field testing in his school in Prince William County. And both of us, Chris and I, have been accepted to present SoftChalk at the Council for Exceptional Children Conference in April. And he's going to be the keynote person of that presentation and show what he's been doing.
A couple other questions. Somebody asked about widgets. How easy or how hard is it to put a widget in? You know, there's widgets all over the internet, and you will recognize them by the fact that they actually will say that I'm a widget, and here's the embed code, E-M-B-E-D, and you will see that, and you'll copy it and paste it into the widget option in SoftChalk. You may want to expand a little bit about the widgets that you found with Thinkfinity and other sources. Yeah, we did find a number of widgets or applets. I mean, this is something maybe your people who know a little bit more about the difference between a widget and an applet, but either one we were able to find and capture the code and just go to insert a widget, paste the code right in, and voila, that's all it took. I mean, once you found the plant growing applet that she wanted to put into her lesson, we probably got it in there in probably less than 1 minute. It's very easy, as we say in SoftChalk. If it's not easy, it's not SoftChalk. So there we are. She was totally amazed how quickly and easily it. Right. We get that a lot, thankfully. There's another question. Do students need to use SoftChalk with a CM or the CMS, a learning management system, or can it stand alone? And I want to talk about that, especially with respect to the fact that most of your use is on an electronic whiteboard. It is not with the learning management system at all. You store them in a learning management system so that the teacher can pull it up and display it on a whiteboard. Right. My students saved, when they created their SoftChalk lesson, when you create a lesson, everything is saved into a folder, into your lesson. They just saved it right on their USB stick, and then they put that folder, they just drag their folder right onto their desktop that is connected to the connected to the whiteboard. You can save it as an executable lesson. You can save it as a zip file, which is what I did when I was presenting. These right up here are little zip files, and I attached it to the learning management system. But I would have to say that I really could count on one hand the number of my students that have access to a learning management system that would do it that way. All the rest are saving them right on their USB sticks. You can burn it onto a CD. And when they want to launch their SoftChalk lesson, they simply go to their browser, Internet Explorer, and navigate to the index file, and then they launch the lesson that way. I think this is the question you might want to handle, the one that just came up. The questioner, Karen, says that she teaches older adults who are not as computer savvy as the younger adults. And are there navigation aids? Are there issues with navigation that you're aware of? I have sort of my own answer, but give it a shot. Oh, I would be glad to address that. I would say the majority of the people that I teach in my program are over 40. They're second career people. Their children have grown up now. They want to go back and become a teacher, something they've always wanted to do. And yes, there is a difference. Those that are under 40 just take to this like fish in the water, and those that are over 40 need me to hold their hand a little bit and give them some pats on the back and say, yes, you're doing just fine.
But they are all, 100% of them, I don't care how old they are, will tell me, well, that wasn't so bad. SoftChalk is really easy to use. And having been a trainer, a technology trainer in Fairfax for those last 9 years, if it's easy, teachers are willing to give it a try.
Right, and it, I mean, it isn't just that SoftChalk is easy to use for your student teachers, but it's easy to navigate through for the learner. Because one of the issues is that not only it's accessible content, excuse me, and it's consistent. I mean, the navigation that SoftChalk content creates, while there's a look and feel difference that you can create, is pretty much the navigation is pretty much standard. So once they get any sense of how that works, it's consistent throughout SoftChalk lessons.
Yes, I agree with that.
So I am going to try to end this session by sort of giving people answer some of the questions they had, because they've asked a lot of information more information about SoftChalk and how things work, and I just want to sort of give you a sense that this is an Innovators in Online Learning series. We've done this for 3 years. Thank you, Diane. It was excellent, and we have a lot of these, and they're recorded and archived. We have weekly webinars, and on our website, you can get access. Matter of fact, instead of going through this, I'm going to go to our website and show you that you go to the demos, pull-down menu, and go to online demos, which is where we are now, and here we are. You can register for presentations. We have a new product called SoftChalk Connect, which is a digital learning object repository for sharing content. So if you created lessons or just individual activities, you can post them into Connect. Account is free, and you can also search Connect. And again, come to our regular webinar, general webinar, and you'll find out. And we've got a session that is scheduled for next month, and we will have them every month. So just keep coming back. We have training sessions. We have short courses. They're an hour long, and they come with the license, so there's no additional charge. And actually, there's no charge at all. So even if you're not a client and just doing a 30-day free trial, which you can get to easily, download the free trial, is over there. You do that. We have an excellent support desk, and we have, not only do we have the Innovator series, we have actually archived all previous ones, and this one is being recorded. So when it is done, I will be able to give you more information, and you'll be able to go down to our site and just look at all of the ones that have been recorded over the last year or so. But if you don't want to spend all that time, you may want to take a sneak peek at the 5 to 8 minute vignettes that we have gotten people to do that are just sort of go to the basis of what you wanted to say in your presentation, sort of as a teaser. So you get a sense for what they're wanting to do, and you can go back and watch the full webinar as well. Every year we do a SoftChalk lesson challenge. That means that our clients give us their lessons. They let us see them. We have educators from all over the country who are our judges, and we pick winners. And there's a $500 award to the top winners in the 3 categories. And the 3 categories are K through 12, higher education, and professional. So so I encourage people to do that. There we go. Yeah, $500 award. And you can actually go back to the winners in previous years. So you can go to the 2010 and 2009 Lesson Challenge winners as well. So let me go to my last slide, just to give you a sense. If you want more information about SoftChalk, please give us a call. My email is easy, steve@softchalk.com. I'll be glad to tell you everything you need to know. If you want some pricing information, please either call that line or send an email to sales@softchalk. And Diane will be glad to respond to questions that you have. So and her email is pretty easy to remember, dpainter@Shenandoah University, su.edu. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today.